first motion was to have Kingston declare a climate emergency which passed. Congratulations, Rob.
Excellent. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I thought I'd do a quick kind of report back about what's happened since the climate emergency was declared, because I think it's very important that you as residents keep us politicians accountable, that we actually do what we say, and I think so far City Council is doing a good job with that. Since the climate emergency, we've had our strategic planning, and I know some of you have submitted ideas about how we could green the city. And I'm pleased to say that City Council has agreed to have the whole community, both the corporation, the municipality, but everything that's happening within the city boundaries, carbon neutral no later than 2040. So that's a good goal to be working towards. Yeah, thank you. Two other things really quickly. We have a new community center that's going to be built on the east end, and we'll see about 70% emissions reductions by having it powered by geothermal and solar, which is really good. That's kind of a new standard for city buildings that we can be pursuing. And then another thing that we talked about in our strategic planning is electrifying our transit. So we're going to be ordering our first green buses in the next day. Councillor Neal, I see somewhere. Jim might be able to speak to when that actually will be happening, but we're moving in the right direction, and I think that's encouraging. But my main message today is always be gathering and always be pushing, continue to pollute as long as you're offsetting it. And I recognize that and want to say that we are always open for new ideas about how to improve, even as we make strides in the right direction. So thanks for being here today, and I'll keep my time and hand it to the next speaker.
Still said 10 minutes, man.
10 minutes? Are you serious? We're trying to be efficient here.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, Rob. Wow, we're ahead of schedule. That's the way we like it. Okay, the next speakers are Jessica Riviera Belsham and Theo Paradis. They are from Olin.ca, which is a community activist group representing First Nations, and they just did Earth Day celebrations recently, and they're here to get us started.
Ani bojo tansi koi sego ubalakud mishka guzi gizi. Sometimes koya go quinanishka bewis pakwadodam. So I'm also known as Teo Parody, but I'm also Mishka Gozi Gizi, Start Red Sky. My people are from along the are some songs to be able to do the healing that we also need to do in our hearts. That lovely drum connects us all to the heartbeat of Mother Earth, which connects us all together as one. And if we stood here for about 10 minutes and all heard that heartbeat of that drum, all of our hearts would connect as one. And I think with dealing with climate change, the biggest thing we need to do is connect to that earth and to that mother heartbeat. And so, yes, I are going to gather us as one, because it isn't until we all gather from those four directions as one will we be able to heal and do the work we need to do on this earth.
Tiari, Nawan Toka, Yasika. So I'm very grateful to be here. The next song, well, it's an honor song with Mother Earth, for all mothers, but especially Mother Earth, and especially for the amazing people coming here today. So thank you so much.
The next song we're gonna sing is Vindigan Mishomasaka. So it's welcoming those, we'll sing it in those 4 directions, and it's honoring those grandmothers and those grandfathers and those helpers that we all need in this world that are not on this physical plane, but in our spiritual plane, to gather together to help us do the work that we need to do and that others need to do, and guide them in the right way as much as we can do here. With all of us grown together, there are other people that will influence us beyond us to wake up so that they open their eyes so that they can see the things they want to see and the things they don't want to see, so that they can open their ears and hear the things they want to hear, yet the things they also don't want to hear, and speak the good words that need to be spoken.
So our next speaker this afternoon is Professor Stephen Moore, who teaches sustainability at the Smith School of Business at Queen's University. He also teaches environmental policy and ecological economics. Please welcome Professor Stephen Moore.
Thank you. Can you yell like a crowd of thousands? We'll do a little bit more of that. We're at a turning point in the history of the humans. And the question is, could we stop destroying and start healing? I think we can. Sometimes we think we're small and the problems are big, and I'm here to tell you that we can be whatever we have the courage to see. Here it is. We have 12 years to change the system. That's big, but humans have a history of changing the system during a crisis. Greenpeace is changing the system. 350.org is changing the system. Extinction Rebellion is changing the system. Will you help change the system? No doubt you will hear promises today, but the time is past for promises. It's time for action. It's time for our leaders to stop defending the status quo and protecting the financial interests of the wealthy and the powerful who are destroying our future. Don't forget, we outnumber them. It's time to stop trading power between the two old, tired parties. Will you stop voting for federal leaders who lie about proportional representation and who buy pipelines instead? Will you stop voting for provincial leaders who fire environmental commissioners, who terminate renewable energy programs, who eliminate funding for flood control and tree planting so they can continue their history of destruction for personal and political gain? Don't forget, we're trying to run a society here. And government is supposed to be for us. It's time to take back our democracy and exercise real power. PEI is showing the way. Remember, the only rights we have are those that we're willing to claim and fight for. Will you commit to a better future? It doesn't take that many. Eleanor Chenoweth at Waging Nonviolence has done a lot of research and says that it only takes 5% of a committed population to bring down a dictator. 5% of a committed population. That's all we need to move from personal change to system change. Will you be a committed member of the new 5%? We don't have to get everyone on board. Eric McBay, an experienced Canadian activist, says, do not try to get everyone on your side. Work to develop a committed core. Do not take the middle road. Move the goalposts so that climate change becomes the middle road. And make people choose. That is the path to system change. It's time to stop being polite Canadians. I urge you to take action. Some of you with me can probably remember Mario Savio at Berkeley in 1964 when he said there is a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels and upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to show to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless they change, the machine will be prevented from working at all. That is the path to system change. When your children ask you, what did you do, Mom and Dad, to help preserve my future? What are you going to say? Are you going to say, I decided to work for a company that made the problem worse? Are you going to say, I was too busy updating my Facebook page? Are you going to say, I was waiting for someone else to step forward? No. Is our future worth fighting for? I say it is, and we are the first step. Renewable energy provides 7 times more jobs than fossil fuels. Can we pull together with unions to provide dignified work and renewables at a living wage? Can we? Fossil fuel pollution is killing more people globally than smoking. Can we pull together with teachers and healthcare workers to make caring for each other a low-carbon priority? Can we pull together with emergency services workers and stop putting them in harm's way to save us from the climate emergencies the system is creating? Can we become a society that is not only modern and healthy, but dignified and human too? Can we stop being afraid of the future and start seeing it as an opportunity? Can we stop being afraid of each other? Yes. Can we be whatever we have the courage to see? I'll end with some words from one of my heroes, Big Jim Larkin, who was an Irish labor organizer in the early 20th century. It is said that when the police came to break up one of his rallies, he talked the police into joining a union. He said the powerful and the rich only seem rich and powerful because we are on our knees. Let us rise. 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 Keep that spirit. Let us rise.
Wow, let us rise. Absolutely. Our next speaker is Dr. Kieran Moore, our Medical Officer of Health.
That's pretty hard to follow. My name's Kieran. I am your Medical Officer of Health. I'm speaking on behalf of the Board of Health, and I'm happy to recognize Jim Neal, who is one of our counselors on our board. I want to let you know that our board has just recently passed a motion on climate change, and I'm just going to go over some of the issues that they brought forward. And I also just want to thank everyone for the invitation to speak to you about this issue. Public health is here to prevent illness, to promote health, and protect your health. And the World Health Organization states that climate change is one of the greatest global threats of the 21st century. We need to break our addiction to carbon and fossil fuels, and we all have our part to play. Climate change affects Canadians profoundly by increasing extreme weather events, decreasing freshwater supply, and it's estimated that Canada is warming up faster than the rest of the world at about double the rate. You may ask how this affects you. Well, climate change affects your health in many different ways, through the intensity of the heat waves and the extreme weather events, through the air you breathe, and the increase in carbon in the air has a direct association with the increased incidence of asthma and heart disease, and can cause strokes. It also, in our area, is increasing our risk for infectious diseases. As ticks now are populating throughout Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington, we have one of the highest rates of Lyme disease in Canada, and that's directly attributable to climate change. It also disproportionately affects our children, our seniors, and low-income, Indigenous, and rural and remote communities. Closer to home, we've all known in the news recently that climate change is having a significant effect on our neighbors in Ottawa, and Bracebridge and the Muskokas. KFLA Public Health is working actively with our partners to try to mitigate the effects of climate change and to help us adapt. We do food inspections and monitor the quality of the water through well testing to make sure the changing environment isn't affecting the food you eat or the water you drink. This is especially relevant during extreme weather events such as are occurring right now. We work with our municipalities like the City of Kingston in promoting active transportation and designing healthy neighborhoods adapted to our changing climate. We also monitor for illnesses associated with climate change, such as vector-borne diseases such as West Nile or Lyme disease. And these are some of the many actions that your public health agency is taking to help mitigate the effects of climate change. As you know, several municipalities have declared climate emergencies like the City of Kingston, Ottawa, and Hamilton, and our board is very supportive of advocating for actions on climate change and have passed a motion to declare climate change a threat to the public's health, period. We are then going to ask all local public health agencies across Ontario to adopt this motion, and only through our consistent and persistent commitment and action can we tackle climate change. We need to name it, to frame it, and commit to taking action. Thank you so much for the opportunity to support your work.
Thank you, Doctor. Boy, I didn't realize he was doing all that. That's good. That's great. So our next speaker is Ian Arthur. He is our elected member of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario for Kingston and the Islands. As a member of the official opposition, he serves on the Finance and Economic Affairs Committee, and he is the critic for environmental and sustainability. Ian has highlighted in his speeches in the legislature numerous environmental and economic issues with the policies that have been put forward by the government. Please welcome Ian Arthur.
Hello, everyone. Perfect. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for coming out today. It's so important to have your voices. It's hard to know what to say, really. We have 12 years for the most important fight of this century. 12 years to change a direction that is so fundamentally wrong, but also has such deep roots that changing that is so phenomenally hard. It's hard to know what to say because climate should be at the front of every single political, economic, and social agenda out there. You just heard from Kingston Public Health talking about the health repercussions of climate change. Public health, which just had 50% of its funding cut in Toronto, which provides essential services to the community. And Councillor Joe Cressy has been very clear in Toronto that people are going to die because of this cut. It's as clear as that. And people are dying right now because of the climate emergency. It is an emergency. It should override everything else because healthcare and education and everything else that we want to work on and take care of becomes so much harder if we don't deal with the climate crisis. It becomes so much harder. It is an honor to be the environment critic in the legislature. It's hard right now. I'm not sure if you guys know, but yesterday they dropped their housing bill. And this housing bill has gutted the Endangered Species Act. It has gutted the Environmental Assessment Act. In the midst of flooding across Ontario, it is cutting the funding to the authority of conservation authorities. They do not have the ability to have the effect on development that they did 2 days ago, or it's about to be passed. But, and I know this sounds bleak, and this is the hard part of the job, is that this is incredibly difficult time to do this in, but it's never been more important. But there is so much out there to hope, and through the voices of a few and the leadership of a few, be it Alexandria Cortez, be it Greta, be it those ones that are providing the voices that allow everyone else to unite behind an idea that is bigger than themselves and push back against the status quo and a paradigm that is killing this planet. That is where there is hope. And I was just told that the Saskatchewan Supreme Court has ruled that the carbon tax is constitutional. And we will keep fighting to make sure. We hope that the courts will arrive at the same decision in Ontario, because we need action. We cannot afford to not do this. It is so monumental. We just can't afford to not do it. So I'm not going to stop. I spend every moment that I can advocating for the planet, for endangered species, for children who are going to inherit this this that make me keep going. Because my job is to represent you and the future of these kids right here and everyone else who is here. That is my job. I take it incredibly seriously. Keep fighting. You're an inspiration. I will do everything that I can. It's a privilege. I have thought so hard about, I am asked to speak at so many events, and that is such a profound privilege. And how can I do honor to the position that I have been given? And I honor it by talking about this and about things that matter to the people who live in this province and this country and across the planet. And we need every politician to do that. We need every politician to do that. So keep coming out on Fridays. Pick up the phone and call your brother and your sister and your mother and your daughter and your son and tell them that it's time that they took action and came out to one of these events. We have to spread this through the fabric of society so that every single person votes on this issue, shows up to work and talks to their boss about this issue, calls their elected officials about this issue, because that is how we affect systematic change. That is what we need to save this planet. It is the planet that we are fighting for. It's the planet at stake, and that is why we must succeed. So thank you very much for coming. It is an honor to be here, and I'm so proud of all of you for coming out. I'm so proud of the action that you're taking. Keep at it. Please, please, please keep at it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ian. And thank you for the good work that you're doing in criticizing our government's bad policies. Back by popular demand, we have Jessica and Theo to sing us some more songs.
Me again, so this next song that we're going to sing is offering those waters that healing that it needs. In too many places in Canada and around the world, those waters are greatly affected by our climate choices and the choices people make for us and the choices we sometimes have been made for.
1988. So this one's in the Nahuatl language, all of our heart, and because we love it so much. So that flower being life itself, being Mother Earth, that flower being whatever you choose to help it represent. Yeah.
I'm going to ask that bear to come in and sit with us and find a good place within all of us. And that bear offers that medicine and that healing. And being that Mukwadotum and that bear clan, it honors me great to be able to sing it now as they're awakened doing their work. And it's a good time to be able to sing this song and offer the healing that this world needs.
Now
coming forward. You're next. Lauren is a third-year Queen's student, a local singer and songwriter, and she will be sharing some of her slam poetry with us today.
We know the climate is changing, but it's not just the sky. Fires and storms are raging under your t-shirts, behind your eyes. You only have 10 years, we know, to learn to live in harmony with the birds, the rocks, the trees, the shrubberies, and the centipedes. And we know that the most difficult chords to strike will be that one with all of humanity. There are those who believe that they have no investment in this burden, that their green should not go towards this green. They're not listening. They don't understand that when our earth is hurting, we too are hurting. Our skin corrodes beside hers, beside our hope and our organs. Governments and corporations try and manufacture ignorance. These companies are allowed to hide behind pseudo-scientific lines of defense. But while they're on the defensive, we're on the offensive. You see, they're worried because climate change means that business might be expensive. But if they must look at it from a business perspective, I'm sure I can offer you some alternative incentive. The richest 10% of the world are responsible for 50% of the global carbon emissions. Now, the Earth is not like us. It cannot afford physicians. There are no hand-wavy magicians, and although individual change is crucial, it is not enough on its own. We must see big change from politicians, from corporations, and from legislation. And Mr. Ford, we need education. Because there is no one to pass it on to, there is no next generation. The solution is immediacy. Now, just 1 degree, and we no longer have the seas. We can say goodbye to cosmetics, to tourism, to fancy sushis. But you see, folks, the problem is not just oil or straws or foreign delicacies. We're drowning ourselves in consumerism, in cigarettes, and in microbeads, because sometimes the most dangerous things are the hardest to see. But maybe we can use this to our advantage. You see, the youth of today are looked over, perhaps mismanaged, but I see that a lot of you are pretty woke. And we know that a change must happen now. So, as we all march together on Friday, May 3rd, I urge those in power to listen and to promise that our big words and little words have big power. And as a spade is a spade, a crisis is a crisis. And on a book with 4.5 billion pages, are we certain that we want those words?
Wow, Lauren, thanks. Our next speaker is Pastor Edgar. He wants to share his perspective on the importance of tech.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. A kind email from Julie asking me to speak about the value and importance of nature. Before I say a few words, I'd like to commend the posters that I'm looking at. I love the posters. Yeah, sure. I really love the posters. You're very creative. And I like it. And that's the truth. I also like the one of the lady right in front of that one. this lady here with a white poster. You. Consider the futures of our children and grandchildren. You know, friends, every time I think of the word future, I think it's very significant. We have 10 to 12 years. 10 to 12 years. The present. Does the word future and put the word what? Present. Now, exactly. Moved as I read on the BBC website about this young Scandinavian girl who has started a movement about people like me. What will happen in 12 years if we don't change? I say that I was born under a banana tree, but I was not born under a banana tree. But I lived in Africa for most of my life. And the very last city where I lived, it was an impossible situation. Climates, they're really facing a tremendous challenge. So, why is important? Why is nature important? What is my perspective as a pastor of a very tiny little congregation and a very sliver of... And what the Bible says to me is very important. When God created Adam and Eve, He took 6 days to create the earth. And then He gave Adam and Eve a beautiful place to live. A place with fresh air, beautiful plants, fruits, pure air and sunshine. And then God gave Adam and Eve a responsibility that I believe we as Christians have forgotten. God said to Adam and Eve, you're not the owners, you are simply the stewards. I believe if things are going to change, we need to have a different attitude towards nature. We don't own nature. We are not supposed to be using nature. We are supposed to be caring for nature. Nature and us have a symbiotic relationship. If we poison, I believe, if we believe in the Bible, I believe we have a responsibility to look at nature as a gift, as something we are supposed to care for. We have a responsibility to preserve nature, not for the future, but for the present, children and grandchildren. So we need to have a different outlook, look at nature differently. And then one thing that perhaps I've not yet heard much here today is, what does it all mean to you and to me personally? Yes, systems need to change. Government policies need to change. But nothing will change unless, in my opinion, your personal habits and my personal habits change. Does that make any sense to you? Unless our personal habits change, nothing is going to change. Perhaps my 2 cents of advice to you is, and to myself, is this. We need to live simpler lives. Be less consumer-oriented. Leave less of a footprint on our planet. I think what we need is a change not simply at the corporate level, political level, but I believe at a personal level. Unless you change our habits, nothing's going to change. If we're going to be spending as much on whatever pollutes the earth, nothing is going to change. You and I need to change. And I recommend that you consider what I believe to be valid and relevant, the biblical counsel of living simply. Be less of a consumer. One of the things that amazes me in Canada is the trash. The trash we have is worth billions around the world. I grew up in Africa buying second-hand clothes from North America. What you consider trash, we consider precious, valuable stuff. We need to have less trash. We need to become less of a consumer. So, my 2 cents to you is this. Look at nature as something that God created. You and I have a symbiotic relationship. Whenever we poison nature, nature just gives us back what we put into it. Live a life more simply, because we get not only the system, but our own lives. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing a few words with you. And I love the posters. Green Power, it's a beautiful one. If you don't act like an adult, I will. I like that kid's poster. It's a beautiful poster. Your mistakes, my future. Your mistakes, my present. I like that too. Slow, mindful what? Out there, living. Climate inaction is a crime. And it is a crime to all of us here today. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing a few words with you.
Thank you, Edgar. Okay, our next presenter is Zachary Tyfair, 19-year-old St. Lawrence student who is passionate about getting involved in political campaigns. Take it away.
Thank you. So many of us are here today to recognize that the threat from climate change is urgent, serious, and growing. Our generation's response to this challenge will be judged by history. Together, we deny the next generation theirs future, and we risk ours. What I just said, we hear that so many times from our government. They tell us they're going to take action, while they're making plans to build a pipeline. They tell us they're going to do something with the same ideas that got us into this problem. I cannot express that this election is more important than any other election, because this is the last election where we have 10 years, 12 years. After this, there is not going to be more time. So we must be engaged. You may have kids, you will have grandchildren. I don't want to tell them, and I'm sure you don't, that why they don't have clean water. Maybe you've heard one thing with the Green Party. Sorry, a little bias. But what we did do, for the first time, the status quo, 1 million people and added climate change to their policies. That's what your vote does. So today, be proud of everyone that's here today. Because after today, history is going to look at a popular decision to rise up and didn't sit down. Because we cannot afford. Sorry. My apologies. In closing, I would like to say to everyone that fear that they are not, Gandhi was one person. Just imagine how history would have changed if they said they were one person and did nothing. We can be the spark to the revolution. Stand up for what's right. Because today, everyone's watching on us and hoping that we rise to the challenge. Thank you for your time.
Boy, my paper said he was passionate, but she sure showed that was true. I'm going to slip someone in here now. He's a better place for all of us. Jim Neal.
But I just want to say this is a time for all of us to passionately move last time on council, but I want to leave a lasting outcome to that. This may be the most progressive council I've been honored to sit on. It has great potential. We were the first municipality to declare a climate emergency in Ontario, and only the third in all of Canada. So that's a start. We just had 5 weeks ago our strategic planning session, and we named climate change and affordable housing as our top two priorities of only 5 priorities. All reason to, and I'll say this to my colleagues, I'll say this, inflation is council's number one priority. Applause when you talk about a tax increase. I appreciate that. But the reality is that's the only way we're going to survive in 12 years' time. I'll say this anyway. My favorite, the Liberals and the Conservatives tweet, but the reality is that's what we're faced with. I'm not going to stand up here. I'm a lifelong New Democrat. I'm not going to stand here and tell you how to vote. All I'll tell you is how not to vote. Do not vote for the two major parties. They're the people who have got us into this mess, and they're the people we need to put out. The best governments that in my lifetime and the best achievements have been reached by minority governments. We need to vote. The only idea of strategic voting, I think, is to vote traditional parties. We need to make sure that there's enough New Democrats, and yes, enough Greens, to save our country and save this planet. And I'm hopeful that that's what's going to happen in the next election. My good friend Peter Cormos, who died just a few years ago, and some of you will remember was a bit of a rebel New Democrat, always said the best NDP government we've ever had in this province was the Peterson minority government. And I agree, a minority government is our best opportunity to really, really affect change. So that's as partisan as I can be, I'm afraid. But be vigilant. Tuesday night, come to council. We'll be talking about how we're going to achieve our priorities. Wednesday night, we have a motion, and I'm very proud of this, to purchase 2 electric buses. And they're the first of a fleet, and we've targeted to replace buses as they come off with more electric buses, with the idea that by 2025, our whole municipal fleet will be EV. So that's our best bet, and that's going to cost some money. But I'm sure our children and our grandchildren, hopefully, will all live to thank us for those decisions we're making here today. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim, and especially thank you for bringing that good news on the EV buses. Just to lay out the challenge there, Shenzhen in China, city of 12 million people with 16,000 buses, finished their transition to EV buses in December of 2017. So we won't be leading anybody, but at least we're going in the right direction. Next up, we have Tiffany Bankowski. She is a she's going to the third year engineering student, yes, engineers, of engineering physics at Queen's University. Tiffany volunteered for her school's environmental club back in high school, where she worked on waste reduction, earth hour, water bottle workshops, and waste management programs. Here she is to lead us in some chants.
Hey guys, how are we doing out there? Can I hear ya? Let's get those vocal cords warmed up. So some of you should have gotten some cards here. They have some chants that we're going to go through together. And I want us to be loud. I want us to be proud. I want to show the city of Kingston that we are here and we will rise up to fight against climate change. Okay, so I'm going to say the chant once and then we're going to say it all together 3 times. All right, so our first chant is, shut it down, keep that oil in the ground. Everyone good? We got it? Yeah? Okay, all together. Shut it down, keep that oil in the ground. Shut it down, keep that oil in the ground. Shut it down, keep that oil in the ground. Woo! Nice, okay. Our next one is a little bit longer, but it's invest in the future, not in pollution. Put your money in the solution. Okay, I'll say that one more time. Invest in the future, not in pollution. Put your money in the solution. All right? Okay, let's do it. Let's go. Invest in the future, not in pollution. Put your money in the solution. Invest in the future, not in pollution. Put your money in the solution. Invest in the future, not in pollution. Put your money in the solution. Nice, that was good. All right, I want to hear this one even louder this time, all right? They can't stop the revolution. We are the climate solution. All right? One more time. They can't stop the revolution. We are the climate solution. Okay. Okay, we can't stop the revolution. We are the climate solution. We can't stop the revolution. We are the climate solution. Nice. Okay, so the next one's pretty fun. So it goes, ho, ho, hey, hey, climate justice when today. All right? So I want all of us to say, ho, ho, hey, hey. Exactly, okay? Ho, ho, hey, hey, climate justice when today. Ho, ho, hey, hey, climate justice when today. Ho, ho, hey, hey, climate justice when today. It's got to go. All right? Hey, ho, got to go. Hey, ho, hey, ho. The status fighting for a green planet. Thanks. I like you too.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, I'm back. With another program change, I'd like to introduce to you Candace Christmas.
I was not expecting to do this today, but I'm delighted to do this today. Thank you all for coming out. I know if anyone woke up this morning like I did and just went, oh man, this is going to be harsh, it's going to be cold, it's going to be damp. But you know what? I think we're on fire, right? Why? The weather. It's not getting hotter. It's like our politics. What's happening in our politics today? Whoever would have thought that someone like Trump or Ford would have ever been elected? Not in my day. Because those are the politics of cruelty. And so I'm here as a youth activist and a mother. Our health and our well-being and our children's well-being and their grandchildren, our grandchildren and their children. And so I'm here to talk to you today to really talk about firing up your heart, because you know what? This is going to be a huge fight. And everyone who's spoken today, especially Zach, about the fact that I think our window is closing. I think the election, this federal election coming in 2019 in the fall, economic engines in our country, and look who's leading them. So the people need to take this back. I think the children and the mothers and the fathers, we all need to take this back and really, to the point, start not voting for the people who really and truly, over the past 3-4 decades, have betrayed our future. I was a PhD about it for a long time, but we don't have political will. So it's not about the science, and I tell you this, folks. You can talk about the facts as much as you want. There are certain people who in their minds want to protect a way of being and living that is not compatible with sustainability. And that's the problem. And that's what we have to rally against. And I am talking to the converted here. But when you go out in your communities this summer and this fall, you have to show people that this is really about our humanness, our ability to somehow have a future on this planet. And it's not just climate change, it's not just the environment. We need to think about social, economic, and environmental sustainability. And unfortunately, we can't have any of it unless we start combining those messages. So the climate change environmental perspective and changing the way you live and how you consume is very important. But so too is the political will to protect all of our citizens. And that means having things like a basic income, having things like universal health care, but more primary care. Not when you're so sick that you end up at KGH. Let's talk about prevention. And here we just had public health being cut. That's going to affect our children and our families and our youth more than anybody else. So the very people that we are talking about, their futures, are the ones that have been put at risk. And I tell you, it is going to take a tsunami of political will. And our good professor from Queens said we need 5%. So, you need to mobilize that 5%. That might be 5% of your friends and relatives. Think about it. Make a plan. Take a map it out. Who do I need to talk to about voting for other parties other than the Liberals and the Conservatives? Because the Liberals have betrayed us on so many fronts. The Trudeau wave, I came from Montreal when Trudeau's father was a god. And let me tell you, the son ain't the father's child. And he's betrayed us. He has made us think that he had a feminist government, that he had a government that was going to stand for change in terms of our electoral systems. And you know what? It was all about big business. And we know that now with SNC Levelland. And it's not just the Liberals. I hate to say it's Conservatives too, but the Liberals got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. So what does that say to me? It means strategic voting, no. We don't represent yet. Here we are again, and nothing seems to be moving. You know what? This fall, October 2019, it's our children and our youth who are going to suffer with this government, the provincial government, the most. And it's slightly terrifying to think about what that might be if we get a conservative government at the federal level as well. Then you have the perfect axis of evil. So, this mama bear, although I shouldn't say mama bear because actually like my sign is Taurus. I just had my birthday on May Day. I'm bull. And let me tell you, if you ever heard the expression a bull in a china shop, I am going to be I'm going to be getting more involved in politics, and I'm going to leave it at that as a youth advocate, and I'm going to try and mobilize youth, and I'm going to try and mobilize families. And I want to thank you all for your energy and coming out in the cold, and I hope we'll be marching a little bit more together in the very near future. So thank you for listening to this bull. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Candace. From one Taurus to another. Hall of Fame, along with a few other notable names. He's a musician, a harmonica player, and he's going to share with you some of his music today. Let's welcome Charlie Turrell.
No one coming to save us.
Did you record my little?
Greta
I'm live streaming it
Thunberg
right now, so yeah, I've got
No one coming to save us. Greta Thunberg blue.
I'm gonna post it. Do you know where the Facebook page is? Do you know where the Facebook page
Young
for this?
and old.
Okay, so if you want to email me, Karen Kerwin.
Ain't no miracle nowhere. Nature breaking down. Ain't no miracle nowhere. Nature breaking down. Floods and fires and famine. We're desperation bound. Action. Action now. Action. Action now.
Peacekeepersalliance.com.
I said
.com now.
action.
Peacekeepers.com. Yeah, that's them.
Action
Peacekeepers
now.
Alliance, I gotta say. Alliance. Yeah. Yeah, if you just email me, I'll send you a link.
Science flashing a warning. Better heed the call. Vote out them climate deniers for the good of all. Action! Action now! I said action! Action now! I said action! Action now! I said action! Action now! I got them grand.
Well, that was fantastic. Thank you very much. I wish I'd recorded that. Okay, next we are
Kingston, we're a nonprofit organization here. I'm here with the SK team because I believe we can make a difference and inspire change how much greenhouse gas emissions we have to reduce in order to not face the worst. We need decision makers to set apart their differences and act in forward. We cannot undo what has already been done, but if we work urgently, we can try and set ourselves on that resiliency here. We work with local businesses to help reduce their carbon emissions. We try and host community events like our climate change symposium in January, and if anyone here participated in Pitch-In last week, we had almost 10,000 people picking up garbage all across Kingston. We also have released our new platform, sustainably.eco, and this is a map and directory that includes businesses from all over Kingston that are taking measurable action towards sustainability. And this is to empower everyone's purchasing power. So go out and support the businesses that are fighting for climate action. And if you ever want to talk about climate change, figure out what you can do, and get involved with our organization, you're always welcome to come to our office. We're just located in the LaSalle Muse building on the ground floor. Thank you so much.
I'd like to do that. So we're going to have some more chants. Just to get everybody awake.
Hey guys, so I'm back. We're going to try to do some more chants here, and this time I want to hear everyone. Again, I'm going to remind you guys, our second last one on your little cards, if everyone has them. It goes, I'm going to point at you guys, and we're all going to go, ho ho, hey hey, and when I ask, climate justice when? Climate justice when? Ho ho, hey hey. Climate justice when?